Let me see, I'm not getting,
Me too.
okay, we should be ready to go, I think.
Ready to roll? All right, it being a little after 9 o'clock, we'll bring the Facilities and Property Management Committee to order, starting with the approval of minutes of the June 28th, 2023 Facility and Property Management Committee.
I'll make the motion and second up the minutes.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item number 2, correspondence shared by committee members. Anybody have anything today?
I've only got a question on this, and first, being the chair now, pinching all the pennies I can, why are we getting a thing from the clerk's office and also from you?
I did not know that they are sending stuff, a packet out to you.
Okay,
At a meeting a while back, don't know how long. It was expressed that they still wanted, the committee still wanted the packet from me. So if, and because I thought the county clerk was just doing digital. But if we're getting both,
I got
Yeah.
this, but I did not get that in the other packet.
no, I don't normally send that down to the county clerk because this is really, I consider this one of my work products. It's not, it's something I'm sharing with you because I want to share it with you. It's not something that I really need to share with you. So,
but I'm just bringing that up, I don't know
Okay.
why we're like, it was 53 cents for one and $1.83, it's not gonna make us or break us, but still, was looking to save a penny here and there, and I just wondering why we're doing that.
I can get everything to the county clerk and let her pay for it.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Anybody else? Hearing none, moving on to public input on agenda items. Anybody from the public wishing to speak? Anybody on Zoom wishing to speak? Anybody on Zoom?
Andy, I'm just observing.
Anybody on Zoom? Hearing none, we will close that agenda item and we will move on to agenda item number 4, discussion and approval of a budget transfer of $917,217 to be added to the Pioneer Road County Highway T capital project with funds transferred from 3 facilities and property management capital projects: courthouse masonry, meaning human services building, and highway masonry, together with $125,000 budget transfer from the general fund into capital improvement projects for highway construction.
Okay, I'll start this. I've got Bob here for support. This is a project that started 6 years ago under Ray Paladin. And the process that we have is a long and tedious one. And his original estimate, and neither Bob nor I really know how Ray got that estimate, was for $1.1 million. The project is now, it's 2023 and we're still working on the project. And various things have happened during the project cost. I've got them listed up on the board there. There were poor soils. Because of the poor soils, they had to excavate more. They added a geogrid because that stabilizes anything that's left so that it's a good firm base for them. Because we had to go further down to excavate the poor soils, that meant that we had to have more aggregate. The price of fuels, labor, and asphalt have all increased over the 6 years that this project's been going. So what we've got right now is an actual cost to date of just under $1.9 million. And we have 3 projects in the facilities department that have funds available for it. The first one is the courthouse masonry project. Our original estimate for that was $800 and some thousand. The bid from Berglund came in at roughly half that cost. So we have $406,000 in that project left over, $406,000 left over in that project that can be reappropriated. And why it sits in the project, I don't know, but it's the process that we have where we've been assigning funds to capital projects. So basically, you all pass the capital project, the money goes into that capital project and our project fund code. And if we don't use all that money, it will stay in that code until it goes to another project. And I believe that's just to be expedient, because to take it out of that project code and then put it into something else, we have to have a destination for it to go. I know Paul Kaiser's looking at a different process where the funding will be redesignated somehow so that we don't have this problem, or I don't know if it's a problem, but where we won't have this where projects are done and they have funding left over and the fund still shows money in it. So hopefully when the projects are done, it'll kind of be like, I think, and I know Paul's on, he might correct me, but I think it'd be like a focus on energy. We spend the money, we present the bill to the capital funds, we get reimbursed for it at that time, not that we load it up at the front end. And then we shouldn't be seeing capital projects that we know that are done with funds still in there. How that system got there, been here 25 years, that's how it's always been done. So we've got new blood in here. He's got some better ideas on how to do it, and I think it's going to be more efficient for us in the future. The Neenah Human Services Group has money available because that project came in about $100,000 over budget. We got 2 people to bid on it. And because we hadn't started that project yet, and because we have this road project already in progress that's over budget, the administration has decided that we can delay that a year. We'll put that into all the projects that we have identified with the facilities condition assessment. And there's going to be a process where we're going to address all the deferred maintenance, and we'll lump this in there now. I don't think we're going to have a problem with Neenah. We had a problem this spring, we fixed it. And right now we don't have another problem. We can get through another winter, I think, until we have our condition assessment, deferred maintenance, and a plan come up with that. The highway masonry project was another project that we hadn't started, but that work is being rolled into this office and mold mitigation project at highways right now. So it's like double coverage in the capital project realm. So basically what we have there is we have 3 projects that have funding available that can be reallocated to the highway project of a total of $792,000 and $217. What the highway project is over budget now is $742,000. So if you take the difference there, we have $50,000 between those 3 projects that could be applied to what is the estimated cost to finish the project of $175,000. So that leaves us a shortfall when we go through all the funding process of $125,000. So that would be coming out of the contingency plan or what have you. And I've got Paul here who is got his hands raised, so he can maybe talk better. Can you hear me, Paul?
Yep, I can hear you. I just wanted to highlight on the process that has been done as the capital projects.
You're
Can you
still
hear
on
me?
mute.
That better? Can you hear me? Okay, I think I can talk now. Capital projects in the past have basically been bonded for in total. And when we put
Didn't wanna
the
do that.
capital, huh? Not working? Still not working?
Can you hear us
Oh.
now?
I can hear you.
You can hear us.
You can't hear me?
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you. Oh, here I go. I'm muted down here. Sorry about that.
You hear me yet?
Now we got you.
Okay, the practice that has been done in the past has been to bond for the capital improvement project. So all of that money was bonded for, and when it was put into the projects, as the projects were approved, the full amount was put in under a project accounting system. I have talked with auditors to find out if that is what all counties do, and it is not. I do like the project accounting system, but I do not like the project accounting system where the full amount of the estimate is going to go in and be allocated to that project. I want the full amount that is approved by the board to go into the capital improvement or capital project fund, but not be identified as a project till we start spending on that project. So basically, we're going to be able to keep track of the projects as we spend on them. And as we go potentially over budget, that needs to be then brought up before the board for additional budget amendments or transfers at the time we know they're going to go over budget. If they're under budget, then we do not allocate that project to the fund. We have that in the capital project fund to go to the board to then bring that out of the capital project fund. So it doesn't look like we're moving money from project to project and trying to hide things. We have a capital project fund that has been approved. It's just the accounting methodology that we've been doing with project accounting is making it look like we're moving it from Peter to pay Paul. So I just wanted to hopefully clarify that and take any questions you may have.
Anybody have anything? I guess, Mike, you said that you think we're gonna be all right on the Nita roof project.
Mhm.
How old is that roof? Is it past?
About 20, 21 years.
Okay. And
It's at the end of its life.
Mhm.
It should be replaced. But we were up there this spring, we patched the tear that we had the roofer take a look at it. We can live by it. You know, it's one of these things that, we don't have enough money to go forward with it. And we're already over budget on a road project. So it's,
Mhm.
I think it's probably fiscally frugal to not go deeper in the hole and maybe put it out for bid in the end of August, beginning of September for first thing next year and see if we can get more people to bid on it.
So basically, we put that in the 2024 budget.
It'll be it's a capital project. How we're doing the capital project is a little bit different. And it's gonna probably be a little bit more different because in August, I should be getting the report on the condition of our facilities, which will be probably changing everything that I have planned in the capital projects for facilities. Because right now, my capital plan is just looking at the 20-some buildings that I look at. But I've told you numerous times, we've got 138 buildings in the county. And there may be some buildings that are in much worse shape than what I've got. And that may even preempt doing Nina's roof. We might have to do something temporary on Nina again. Because there's a building that is in much worse shape that has the risk of much more damage if we don't fix something at that time.
No?
I'm gonna support this wholeheartedly because that's the way it's been done, but I'm happy to hear that Paul's gonna go ahead and hopefully change this, because as you know, I am not one that, here it is over here, and now we're taking it out of here to give it to highway for that. I'm not for that. Just because we passed the budget don't mean, well, we can just go ahead and use this money for any place. But this is what we have done. We've got Silvercrest coming up. How much money? Some of this could have went to Silvercrest or whatever. We could have used that there and could have been taken out of facilities, but that's where the money's gonna have to come out of sooner or later to fix the roof from that there. But I'll definitely support this because that's the way we're doing it. But Paul, I look forward to seeing the way you're gonna do it from now on, and I'll be backing you all the way.
I just have one final question. I guess, what separates this road project from some of the other road projects we're looking at? I mean, was this the one that was the longest in the hopper? Or, did one person say, hey, T's really bad, we gotta get T done, and one person was pushing for T to get done over, a GG, or I'm just using that example. I guess I'm just kind of curious how this came to be that, why we landed on this project.
So these projects like this, so this has been going on for a long time, is Pioneer Road. When you came
Yep.
in there, you'd make that left-hand turn and go downtown Larson. Majority of those people would go straight north on Pioneer to get to Double I.
Mhm.
They would bypass going through Larson.
Mhm.
So majority of that traffic was using this. So this has been on the radar, I think, for a long time of extending this through there. Obviously pavement conditions, when you start looking at it, everything we do is by pavement condition. So the pavement condition through Larson was getting very poor. And it was time. We had to do something, we either had to overlay it, so that's when these projects came through. And then a part of this too was on Double I, there was a hill up there. There was one fatality at Pioneer and Double I. So they cut that hill down to improve the vision at that intersection too. So this has kind of all been in the works, but this is something that we're gonna change on our end too, is that when this estimate was done was in 2017, 2018. So when that estimate gets done, then you start your design. Then once the design is completed, you get into real estate. It takes almost a full year, if not longer, to acquire real estate. So this process, by the time you get to this point, that's about how long these projects, County Road P right now. It's been in design 2 years. We're looking at 2025 construction. So that's the process. But the one thing was, and then Paul is we're gonna change this. So this big estimate we get here needs to keep including inflation.
Mhm.
When you start looking at fuel prices, 25 to 30%, fuel prices were at a seven-year all-time high last year.
Mhm.
Asphalt prices went up 30%. And then you look at, we talked about TVS. So when you excavate that poor materials, you have to replace it with something. The smartest thing is to add the geogrid. That gives you that extra protection that it's going to support. But then you have to, whatever you dig out, if it's two feet of EBS, you have to put an aggregate back in. So you get added costs with that. Aggregate goes up every year, 3 to 5%. Every year it goes up. So that's one thing that Paul's discussed is that, or we discussed that these estimates have to keep adding that interest to that, or inflation. The County Road P project, when that was started, it was at 7 million. We got the estimates now, it went up to over 9 million. So we were able to get 2.7 million of additional money for that from the federal. So, but that's how inflation is. And it's not blaming anybody. It's just a process that we've been put in. It's not blaming, my predecessor or anything. Poor soils, everything adds up with this. And, like I said, and I think Paul has got a great start on this is, we have to keep increasing this to adjust for that.
Right. Mike?
So now like that estimated cost of 1,100, right?
1.1 million.
Okay, 1.1 million. So should have been actually a lot more.
Yes.
And it's because if you're gonna go into the future, you've got,
Right.
so that's what you're getting at. We
Yep,
should
so
start
Paul-
doing that with every project.
Yes. Yep. So we're gonna have to start looking at that where, years ago, you didn't have to worry with inflation wasn't that great. But anything I get right now, whether it's a truck, any equipment, they just tell me add 10 or 15% on for next year. That's all they're just saying is add that on. It's just automatic, add 10 to 15%. We didn't have that years ago. That wasn't the case. Whatever that estimate came in at, that's what that estimate was. We're at this time where that's not the case anymore. Until this plateaus and levels out, we may get that, but I don't think we'll ever get to that point where your estimate from 5 years from that initial estimate is gonna hold true. We're always gonna have to keep adding that inflation, cost of materials, and so, yeah.
Tom?
I suppose with the inflation factor, in the past being so low, you didn't worry about it as much as you are now. But I'm wondering, how much of the costs would you attribute the increase, would you attribute to unknown factors like the subgrade? Because you can't tell until you get down in there, right?
Right. So the
Or
soil
you have a
borings,
feel for what it's gonna be. Oh, you get the bore.
so yeah, they do soil borings, but the thing is whether you do them at 50 feet, 100 feet,
Right.
a lot can happen, like on the, most of the poor soils was on the north end of this project.
Okay.
And I mean,
Did you do borings up there?
oh yeah,
Okay.
but just it was in between those borings that where you catch those. And we've had this in projects in the past. It's just unless you bore every square foot of that, it can change at 5 feet or 10 feet or 20
Right.
feet.
So how much of the cost increase you think would be attributable to the unknown costs because of the subgrade? And how much of the cost do you think would be attributable to inflation factors that you maybe should have had put in the capital budget earlier this year? You know, have any idea?
I mean, we probably could look into and see what the poor soils and find out exactly what extra.
I'm just kind of curious how much, what the allocation would be for what you didn't know about and then what you maybe
Sure.
should have known about earlier, that's all.
Yeah,
But
no, and that's something we could look into. I mean, we have the capabilities now. I mean, everything that's excavated every day is
okay,
the engineer logs everything.
yeah,
So we know exactly from station,
okay.
A to B, we over excavated this much and how much material.
Well, I don't want to hammer you over this.
Oh.
This stuff happens, I mean, I'm sure this is an issue, but I'm glad to know that finance and you are both going to address the issues more carefully about, applying inflation factors to prior estimates. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, this is like I said, this in the past that estimate was always good.
Yeah.
And now we're to that point. I mean, hopefully this plateau is out and we don't have that, but at least now we are gonna look at that. We are gonna add inflation, and there is, I had the engineers go back and there is a construction index that they use.
Mhm.
I mean, the fact of the matter is where we are right now is right within their project what it should have been.
Was there an initial bid amount that the contractor gave you on this?
Yeah, so everything, so when the initial contract comes in,
Yeah,
so that is per the bid.
that's
Okay.
back in 2017, or is that?
No, that was
was-
in 2021 before we started.
So they bid, can you tell me what they bid?
I think it was about like 700,000. So this was part of it that, we did work in there, the contractor did work, and, it was all part of, how it was set up.
So 2021, you had 700,000, and now you're at 2.2 million or 2.1 million.
Well, so estimated price is 1.1 million. So to finish that project, we're looking at that
Right,
2.1. So
yeah. How often does this happen with highway projects? Is this
I mean, this was
a new thing?
obviously the first for me, this whole COVID thing. I mean, I don't know, Tom, I don't know.
It don't happen.
It doesn't
very often.
happen a whole lot. I mean, this is one of those things that I mean, by no means am I putting, I'll take full credit for
Oh,
this, but it's just
I
one of those
understand.
things that you don't know
Right.
with soils, with COVID, the fuel prices. If you could project all that, even like, parts for equipment these days. You're at the mercy.
Well, I don't think the
That's it.
inflation we got now was due to COVID, but
Yeah,
it's due to other.
But at
factors
least-
beyond my pay grade.
yeah, but at least now, the one thing is so like Paul touched about project numbers.
Yeah,
So like this project, 4914, that's the project number is assigned, and that's how we do all our billing goes through that.
mhm,
So the finance part of it, and I guess that was, each one of these has a project number.
Yeah.
So, and that's where like, I mean, I'm not a finance guy, that's why we rely on the finance department, so. The initial paperwork I had, I mean, that's what we went up and.
So
So,
that, Tom addressed that. I don't really understand the accounting part of it too much on that,
yeah,
because I haven't been here that long, but my background is more understanding that, not engineering, but the cost of construction.
sure,
And so
yeah.
that's why I'm
I
asking you questions about allocation.
Sure. I mean, I kind of, what I did was I broke this down to try to simplify it as easy as I could. I mean, instead of giving you project numbers and just break it down, hey, this is where it's coming through and what we need after that. And I thought it was the easiest way to break it down. So yeah, but I mean, at least moving forward, hopefully we don't have these issues, that we can
Mhm.
adjust this before these projects go out and we don't have this issue. And I think
But we had
Paul's
low
kind of,
inflation for so many years and, cheap money for so many years, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's just the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
It's just been, new territory for people who, I mean, obviously I'm old enough to have remembered times when we had these kind of inflation issues to a greater degree than we've had for a lot of years, but, the last 3 years have been tough. It's tough to I'll make a call on what costs are gonna be. I understand it.
I'll tell you, I mean, for me, I mean, a new department head coming in where I mean, it is tough. It is tough to go through this, and I mean, I'm sure, Mike, you've been through these too, and I don't know if you ever had a time, situations like this, but it is tough, and
Yeah,
so.
I would probably say 30 to 40% of the time, you're gonna go over budget, just because we don't have all the intimate details of how the market's going, or what the goal is of the contractors. And you get ringers thrown in there, like the courthouse masonry. We had a contractor called Berglund, who's from Chicago, and they wanted to break into the market. We actually, we honestly thought it was gonna be $800,000 to do the courthouse. For all I know, they bought the job. Contractors do that to get into the market. They will purposely buy a job just so that they get exposure and they get in there and show you what you can do. At the airport terminal building, we estimated that, and it came in significantly under budget. And both the architect and myself, we don't understand. We've talked to the owner of the construction company and said, I still make money on it. It's like, where did you save, or how did you save, so that we can understand why you came in so low? When we did the Nina roof, we estimated that based on past experience. But when we got up there and we started doing the design work, the slope's not appropriate. So they added more insulation to it so we could get the right slope to it. And now the market for isocyanate roofing insulation is just, you may as well just break out the gold, because it's costing significantly more than what it had when we came up with these estimates. And that's, I think Bob and I are going to be working with finance, is when the capital projects come forward to you guys want to know how much we're looking at spending on a capital project. Well, we can't tell you that until we do the engineering. But the way the accounting goes is the engineering needs to be part of the capital project. So it's kind of a catch-22. There may be a way that we can change the process, that we can get the funding for the engineering and get a better opinion of probable cost and come back to you guys. But when we cover for inflation, that goes into, I put a contingency in there, and that is my attempt at trying to cover for inflation or unforeseen things. But I get beat up by some people for, why do we have this big contingency? So back in 2017, had we put in a contingency of $500,000 on that project, we'd have gotten crucified on why are we.
Yeah. If I would have came in and said,
budgeting $500,000 more than what we think we need.
No way you
yeah,
could.
yeah, if you came in and said, hey, we're gonna accommodate for fuel prices being that, no, everybody would have said, well, no way. I mean, one thing too with this project was like culverts. The day we signed the contract with the contractor, the culverts went up was like almost $5,000 in one day from when we signed the contract. So like right now, Our culvert prices are only good for 7 days. Every 7 days, we call for new prices. They're going up, down, and, so not to take any more of your time.
Anybody else have anything on this?
I'll move for the approval of the budget transfer of $917,217 to be added to the Pioneer Road County Highway T capital project. With funds transfer from 3 facility property management capital projects, which includes the courthouse masonry, Nina Human Service Building, and the highway masonry. Together with $125,000 budget transfer from the general fund into capital improvement projects for highway construction.
I second it.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to discussion and approval of a facilities naming policy.
Okay, at the last meeting, we discussed that the way that the county board would have to do this is by resolution. And that we'll be working with the county clerk to come up with a searchable means of finding the resolutions for these policies that you all set. And this is a draft version of a resolution for you to take a look at and either approve it or send it back to us, to me and Mary Ann, to revise it in a different manner. But I believe this incorporates all the changes that we talked about at the last meeting.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and for the resolution draft for the procurement of the naming Winnebago County facilities.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to discussion of responsible bidders / contractors and county role. Mike, this is still in the recodification. kind of what
Right,
we
we're
talked
still
about.
working on that with Mary Ann and myself, and I know Bob and I are talking about it. And this is something that we have to, I think I'm leading the charge. I'm gonna rely on Bob to be one of my supporters. And it's something that's gonna have to be applied across the county. So that means when solid waste is a project, that's a public works project. Airport, that's a public works project. Parks, that's public works project. So, it's not just roads and buildings, it's every project that deals with county infrastructure that is defined as a public works one. So I know, Bob, we've got that person, Paula, that we want to try and meet with and see how Appleton or Allegheny County did it. And you gave us the information from Brown and a couple other places that we will try and get into a procedure that we can get probably make it a policy rather than an ordinance, because that gives us more leeway to amend it rather than having to go back and go through all the changing of the county code. So it's a work in progress. We're not sleeping on it, but it's in the mix of all the other projects we've got going on.
Anybody else have any questions about that? You have a timeline, Mike? Just month to month working on it?
Month to month working on it. I know right now Mary Ann is up to her eyebrows in something with the solid waste department.
Mhm.
So
Is that recodification supposed to be done by the end of the year, or is that what's the timeline on that?
We had talked about that a couple of weeks ago. That's, I think, slowed down a little bit.
It's when it originally was supposed to be.
Yeah, it was supposed to be done in like August, but I don't know what the end date is right now.
Yeah, got the second draft even back yet on it.
Yeah,
This, the assessment study you're. doing?
Recod.
no, the
Recodification.
recodification, the assessment study,
Yeah, we're not,
We'll
we're
get
not,
to that.
the recodification. Okay.
Anybody else? All right, moving on to the discussion of the Oshkosh Human Resources Building Elevator Control Modernization.
we have got everything except the brain box yet. And that is supposed to be shipped mid-July, so it's the 17th or 18th, what is it, 19th today? So we've got to get in touch with Kone and see where it is, if it's been shipped yet. But we've got the majority of the other parts. Capelli and Dietrich is the general contractor with it. They will be starting doing their work in the Oshkosh Human Services Building. I believe my superintendent's gonna be meeting with them. I thought he was gonna meet with them yesterday. And they were gonna start discussing what we had to do to prep the building for everything that Kone is going to be doing. So I'll be calling Kone in the next day or so to see where we're at with that, with their stuff, and when we can get in their schedule to get in there and get it done. But they were looking at having a start date of August 15th, which is 1 year and 1 week from when we had the first failure.
That's why I said,
Yes, something like-
Yeah, so when do they project that this will be done?
It would probably be about a 2-week time frame. If we could start the middle of August, it should be done by the end of August.
Then it would be, as long as we get the brain box, it would be operational.
Yep.
Okay.
You know, and what I will just say is, we ordered some electronics in June of 2022, and I just signed off the invoice for it last week. So, you know, I am tired of beating the dead horse, but this inventory problem that we have is a crisis in my book, because you can't get stuff.
Mike?
So where does this brain box come from? Another country or from the United States or?
I believe it's assembled in the United States, but Taiwan makes chips. You know, so you know, the stuff is made from foreign parts and where it's made, you know, if you look at like Carrier, they make very little Carrier equipment here in this country. It's all made in Mexico. You know, so I can tell you it's an American-made control system, but the components that they get are sourced from all over the world. And the world's not a real.
So that is the procedure and that is why it takes so long.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and to be honest, you take a look at the stores and stuff, you know, how much inventory you see on the shelf, you know, they get charged taxes on their inventory. So, you know, businesses' margins are getting smaller. So they're, you know, and starting way back in the 1980s, everybody was talking about business being modern and being efficient and just in time. Well, with COVID and everything, just in time has fit us. Because nobody's got inventory. Except, I guess, Jeep and Dodge right now.
Anybody else? All right, moving on to the discussion of the building assessment study.
They are, I believe they wrapped up all their on-site visits last week. So they are in the process of developing our database of our projects, estimating our projects, and compiling a final report. With the goal is that they would be able to share that with us in August. There may be some things that they have to come back and take a second look at because they want to just clarify something in their minds before they document it. But looking at hopefully, I was hoping that we might be able to get on the September special orders, but I think you've got that scheduled for something.
Never know,
Yeah.
we can switch things around.
So, I'm hoping that in August we can get before you guys,
Mhm.
and in September we can get before the county board as a whole. And, hopefully my report card won't be that bad.
Tom?
Did they go ahead and look at the Silver Crest building?
That is on the change order, and they were gonna try and look at it last week when they were here. I don't think they got to it, but yes, they will be looking at that. It's kind of like I wanted to make sure I had a clear indication from the county that we were gonna own it and, get it going. So I got the change order going after it passed human services and passed you guys and passed personnel and finance.
Mhm.
That's pretty clear indication.
Mhm.
But I don't think they've gotten action there yet, because we have to coordinate that with the caregivers.
Anybody else on the building assessment study? Moving on to discussion of 980 housing project. No news is good news.
If you would imagine how many hoops we had to jump through for this, it would be disheartening. Last week, Monday, I believe we finally got the permits. RJM is ready to start moving dirt. They were waiting on getting the new holding tank there so that they could take care of that when they're going. So they should be breaking ground any day. As soon as they get that holding tank, they'll be able to get here and they'll start prepping for building it. The reason why we're waiting on the holding tank is because the existing holding tank is right where one of the homes are gonna go. So we gotta disconnect the existing trailer from the existing holding tank and connect them to the new holding tank before we can really get going too far.
You have to move the tank that's
Yeah.
there.
Well,
Dig it up.
yeah, we're gonna have to dig it out and get rid of the existing tank because the new tank has to be much larger than the one that we got.
How big is the one you got in there?
500 gallons. So,
What will they do with the resident that's in there while they're doing that?
he's gonna be right there.
Okay.
We're gonna work around it.
Highways? Huh? The highways?
Porta potty.
Yeah,
Oh, we'll just tell them, for the next 30 minutes, you're not gonna be able to use the bathroom. Because what they'll do is we'll put everything there. It's just like when we hooked up the therapy and everything to an existing building at Parkview. You do all the prep work, everything's right there and 30 minutes, you make the connection, and if you hear the pipe rumbling, you jump out of the pit.
better.
So that'll be going, and we'll be getting a production schedule from them once they get the holding tank and we can say we're actually starting.
Okay, looking forward to an update next month on that. Moving along, I think 2018 probably started talking about this,
Well, and yeah. If you-
not as long as the sign though.
No, and part of the problem that we've had was we submitted the plans for city approval in February of 23. But the city doesn't approve them until they have a set of plans marked for construction. And you don't get for construction plans until after you're done with the bid, and any changes that came up during the bid process are incorporated in the new drawings. So, but they have now changed that process to where they'll give you a plan review approval without it saying for construction on there. And then we had some issues with paying the permit.
All right, anybody else on the 980? Moving on to discussion on boathouse project.
The steel building is in fabrication right now. We have not gotten a date that Radke and their subcontractor are going to start installing it. But we've been calling them about weekly to see where it is. And the last word we've got is they're fabricating the steel building.
Who's your subcontractor?
Cardinal, I think it's Cardinal, yeah,
Where do you get the buildings from? Where are you getting that?
that I don't know. That I don't
They
know.
would- Cardinal.
Yeah, Cardinal's doing that.
Becky's still answering the phone and everything.
Yeah, we're doing everything by email. That way it's kind of written.
Hmm,
I heard that there's. Could be taking ground out there, so.
Could be.
okay.
But yeah, everything is done except for the steel building, so, and Cardinal is one with responsible for the steel building. So I would think, Cardinal will stand behind it. I've worked with them before. They're a good company,
Mhm.
so.
All right, anybody else on the courthouse? Hearing none, moving on to direct report and department operations.
One thing I have to tell you is on Saturday night, we think we had a lightning strike at Sandpit Tower and it took out the UPS. We have no evidence of where the lightning may have come in. The last time we had this happen, where it actually melted the UPS was probably 10 or 15 years ago, and the lightning came in on the telephone line. But we don't have any clear-cut evidence on where it came in, but we do know that it took out the UPS. Didn't take out any of the sheriff's equipment. It did take out our, the AC unit that's out there that was brand new. And we're lucky because we have a brand new UPS that we were going to replace the UPS out at Sandpit Tower. But we didn't get to install it yet. So we could have wasted a brand new UPS, but we've got the equipment right there. It's just now, we have to work with the sheriff's department to be able to shut down the tower. That's a relatively important tower. So they're trying to figure out how they're going to keep their operations going with, while we take the power down. The problem they have is, even if we only take the power down for 5 minutes, it takes them 40 to 45 minutes to power up their equipment again. So that does a lot of the OPD, fire department, everything around here. So they've got to come up with a plan with that. Like when I talked with the county executive and we talked with information systems or information technology, we have a number of single points of failure throughout the entire county. If we have such critical projects or programs or services, we need to look at how we can mitigate having single points of failure, and it's each tower only has one generator. If the generator dies and we need the generator, that's a single point of failure. Each one only has one UPS, but we have redundancy within the UPS. The UPS never failed completely. We have six battery modules in there. 5 of the 6 failed. So, instead of having 10 or 15 minutes of battery time for all the equipment, we were probably down to about 2 minutes, which should be enough to cover the gap between utility power and generator power, because the generator is up and running in 10 seconds. But you look at the tower sites, there's only one tower. If something would happen to the tower, ice storm or something, that's a single point of failure. We've got that throughout everything. So, as we're working with our disaster recovery, we're going to be addressing, some of these single points of failure, but there's only so much you can do. It would be cost prohibitive for us to have 2 generators at the jail. We're talking $1 million generators, and to have them run for an hour a month just when we test it, that's a waste of money. So we have to recognize that there are some risks that we have, but we have to mitigate the ones that we can so that we don't have a loss of service for people. And that's one of the reasons why we're trying to do this with the Expo Center and making it a place where we can use it in an emergency. We talked about the Nina roof, so that's been deferred. We talked about the boathouse. That's ongoing. The evidence garage, we found a workaround on how we're going to get access for their big trucks there. And it's going to take some cooperation between different departments.
So how are they gonna get in there now?
We are looking at using the driveway off of Y with solid waste and coming through from solid waste. That's the most direct route to where the storage yard's gonna be. But I know it's probably gonna be an issue with solid waste because we're gonna wanna go through their fence. But we're all one family, so.
Could you build a driveway adjacent to their parking lot up to the driveway exit? To widen it so they'd have more room? Or would you have to do that or not? Can you go straight through their parking lot there?
Yeah, it's a wide driveway, it's a wide parking lot. And we're talking about not a very frequent use.
Right,
Because the regular traffic will come off of the parking lot at the jail.
yeah.
But we're talking about the big trucks that they wanted us to have an accommodation to get them there. So that'll work.
Well, doesn't the county own that land adjacent to the jail? I mean,
Yes,
they do.
yes.
But we can't do anything with that.
As you heard the county executive talk last night, he's trying to tear down all the different silos and make us one farm. There are a lot of old ideas with the county where this property is my property and you can't use it. So it's taking some work to break the inertia of the old way that we used to think. Yes, it's all county property. If you look at the deed where Bob is, it says Winnebago County. Where we are right now, it says Winnebago County. If Bob needed to put a salt shed out here, it's Winnebago County property. If that's what he needs to be efficient and operate, that's what we do. The fact that I have to look at a salt shed, there's nothing, that's too bad, Mike. Look the other direction. So we're trying to get that. And I think, along with that, when we do the condition assessment, you'll probably see, that where departments have cooperated and we're taking care of buildings, they're in better shape than where some people may have just been out on their own. And, if we're cooperating, if Bob needs help, he should be able to call up and say, hey, I need 3 people to help me with this project. And if we've got 3 people available, they just go out and work with it. And we go with that. And that's not, Bob, you've been here, what, 20 years? 30? That's not how it was 30 years ago. It's like, there's the Grand Canyon between departments. So it's changing, but slowly. So let's see, we've got the capital projects that we haven't even gotten out yet. I know you all passed the courthouse fall protection. We got to get that out for bid. It's just, as we say, we don't have just one elephant to chew. We've got a whole herd of elephants that we're trying to eat. And we're taking mouthfuls of what we can. The USDA lease, I had just sent some revised documents to them. We got the bids in. The bids are lower than what the last go around was by about several tens of thousands of dollars. So I had to redo all my lease documentation. I sent that off to our contact there for her to look at to make sure it's right before I have the county executive sign it and get it there, and then we get the lease renewed. And it will cover all of the costs for the remodeling. And then the rent, the annual rent will go up a little bit, so it will make a little bit more money.
You build those costs into did you amortize them into the lease? Rate?
Yep. 1 year amortization. So,
Oh, it's just a year.
yeah, we'll get the money back. water heaters, we've got the water heater that was out of commission at Parkview done. We're working on the second one that was leaking. So, they're moving forward with that. We talked about the Santa Tower UPS, that UPS, Fairview. I forget, we've got, what's it? LEC Tower and, one other one, I think. We had 3 UPSs that we have to replace. So, yeah, so those UPSs are here. We just have to work with the sheriff to get time to take down their stuff so that we can put them in there. You know, technology is wonderful. You know, we buy the UPSs with maintenance bypass switches, which means that we can bypass UPS, slide UPS out, connect a new one, and just reopen the maintenance bypass switch. But as technology has advanced in the years that we've had these, the current maintenance bypass switches are no longer compatible with the new ones. We talked a little bit about the Oshkosh Human Services elevator. That should be going on. One thing I would like to talk to you a little bit. We're working on the Harrison Street shelter care. And one thing that we've come across is we don't have a good place to put the elevator without adversely affecting how they use the building. And what I would ask is that we can defer putting in that elevator until we actually need it. They don't need to have people go up to the second floor that would be disabled. And in the event that it would ever not be a shelter care, or when they do need it, we'd end up having to change the way they operate and put it in there.
How does it, if I may ask, how does it interrupt or?
It takes out a conference room and an office. And they need
On the
to kind of-
first floor?
on the first floor and on the second floor.
Can't you put that in a rec room in the back?
No. No, we've worked with the architect, and the best place that we can put it would take out spaces like that.
How long would you have to defer it?
Until they actually need it. Right now, you know, they don't need it. Because they can actually have like 16 beds on the first floor. And they're only using 8 right now.
Was one of my concerns is that we weren't really buying a 16-bed building, we were buying a 8-bed building. Or 8-room building, and you're never gonna use that second floor, but we're paying for it, you know?
Well, we're using it for office space for human services.
Yeah. Just think we overpaid for that property because we can't, and the second floor use would have alleviated that, but I understand you're not gonna use it, it's just that. And we're getting a good deal on Nina, so, you know, from portfolio standpoint, that helps, but. Still. You know, I think we paid a ton for it.
Tom, do you have something? Yes, Mike?
It's not about that, so if you want to finish up on that discussion, go ahead. I did earlier.
That's all I have to say.
Okay.
I agree with you on your part, because that was one of the understandings.
Yeah,
And that's why I'm bringing it forward to you guys, saying, you know. The input I'm getting from the people who are operating there is that it would adversely affect their operations.
But when we talked about it, they're excited about it. So. But anyway, it's not on the agenda.
so you redirect those funds, you otherwise what you use for that elevator, then you get the roof done and all the rest of it, the garage or whatever.
It'll be just like the capital projects, you know, it would be money that's not used, it's assigned to that project. And then it would be reallocated where it's needed in the future. And then we'd have to come back to you for approval to spend money on the elevator in the future.
Well, I don't see that elevator ever get put in, basically. Why, from what I'm hearing here. which, you know, that's your choice. It's just that that wasn't really what we approved. When we authorized the purchase at the board level, I remember asking you guys whether you upgrade ADE right away, whether they have to put it in writing or not. I guess you're asking us now. You're telling us that,
Well, what I'm saying is that it's a trade-off. Either they operate less efficiently and we have the elevator that they're probably not going to use while they're there with the kids.
yeah, I was probably the only one that stood up on this, so. You know, I'm just,
No, I was for that elevator.
I'm gonna be able to sleep well and, you know, I think explain this to my constituents anyway, but, you know, I just think it was a lot of money to pay for that building, given how old it is and how much work needs to be done on it. So that's all I'll say. I said that twice now.
If you're gonna let this continue on, I'll chime in then, because you keep on saying 16 beds, there's 18 there, they can put, or 8,
There's
they
a,
can put 2 people in there, so they didn't get 16, but there's actually only 8
Yeah,
single.
yeah, there's like
bedrooms
8
there.
rooms.
And they're small enough as it is, so then if you crowd in another one and then all of a sudden they're in these rooms for some reason. Whether they're in it for fighting or whatever, then pretty soon you got 2 right on top of each other. I don't agree with that, but that's my feelings. I feel as though you only got 8 rooms there and I was one also. I agreed that I thought that was gonna go up there and I kept on thinking it's not gonna go up there, it's not gonna go up there, it's not gonna go up there and now it's coming up that showing that it's not gonna go up there.
As long as you could get it up there, then you're really only paying, you know, 60-some thousand a unit when you, with only eight actual bedrooms on the first floor, you're paying like 120,000 a unit for that. It's 100-year-old building.
In hindsight, we should, I mean, they should be using the building a whole lot different from when we didn't own it, correct?
right.
Okay, you know, I guess we should
Yeah.
have architect use or look at that. Say, no, it can't be done because you need to, this could affect X, Y, Z instead of, you know,
Well,
saying, yeah, absolutely, we're gonna get this done. I guess in hindsight, we should have had done the work and said, is it feasible to do it?
Well, it's feasible to do it. It just adversely affects the way they operate the building.
Sure.
Now, if I could just say one more thing, close this out. I did ask Dr. Topol at the board meeting about other counties, you know, leasing space in here. And there's gonna be less opportunity to lease rooms out to other counties and, you know, he was talking about $500,000 revenue per year for potentially for leasing some of the rooms out. Well, you only have 8 rooms now, the potential for that's gonna be lower, so. You know, I thought by doing that, you know, it's really business income, but if you capitalize a portion of that, at least you could probably, at 500,000 might have reduced your, say rent was 50,000, or, you know, the rent for the real estate was 50,000. If you're capitalizing that, you're probably gonna cover half your costs right there by leasing space out to other counties. Your $1 million, maybe cover half of that. 50,000 and at a 10 cap. Probably not get through to you on that, but I'm just, for the record, saying that part of it was my comfort level that these could be leased out, these units could be leased out to other counties and we could get revenue for that. And therefore, by capitalizing a portion of that as rent, you could say we weren't paying $1 million, we were paying half of it. You know what I mean? That's,
What their plans would be is that they would prioritize putting non-ambulatory people on the first floor and putting ambulatory people on the second floor.
yeah,
And right now, I don't believe that they've had any non-ambulatory kids in there. So, I don't think it would prevent them from using the second floor for bedrooms. But it's something that affects the way they're doing it right now.
All right, and anything else on budget then, Mike or Tommy?
I had a
anything before you
question
move on?
for, and maybe I missed it here. How is Expo coming on the?
It's in the design process right now. They finished up doing the electrical load analysis. And they're actually doing the design work now to do it. So I don't have a current where they are in the design work, but they started the design work about a month ago. So they should be well into it, picking the generators. And what they did find is, based on historical utility usage and what is a potential there, that we don't need as big a generator as what Faith Technologies had proposed. So it's coming along pretty good.
We don't need to have the generators or anything like that ordered.
No, we're getting it ready to go out for bid to have the generators ordered.
Okay.
But what we're looking at is, once again, generators are gonna be a long lead time type item. You know, we'll get it out for bid, but it's probably gonna take us 6 months, 9 months to get a generator. Here.
Are they still making them in Oshkosh, at Generac? Do they make those kinds?
Yeah, Generac, we had a discussion with them, we've asked that Generac is one of the acceptable manufacturers.
Mhm.
So, you know, hopefully we'll have one that's on the shelf here in Oshkosh.
I don't know if you'll have one on the shelf, because we just got a home one. And it wasn't sitting on the shelf. It didn't take us long, like you said, they had them right shortly, I think within a week or two we had ours, but they don't have them sitting on the shelf. And that's when, like, for our side, so yeah, yours is gonna be bigger than that.
All right, Mike, any comments on the budget?
Budget is moving right along. We're halfway through and we're a little bit under overall, but that's because we've got vacancies and we're not paying the labor. You know, we have had some emergencies come up, like Santa Tower, we're gonna have to pay for those repairs. I don't know what the rules are with reimbursement for insurance processes, because the county's self-insured up to a magic number. So it comes out of our budget to do that. But we're working on filling our vacancies. We've actually hired one custodian, a staff member. We've not had much luck on filling the plumber position, and I'm probably looking at going out for advertising our carpenter position next month. And we'll go from there. But right now, the labor budget is significantly under budget.
Oh,
So how are you getting all your work done then?
We are prioritizing it, and you're probably gonna hear some of my people complaining, because we are really starting to question them on why are 2 people on this work order. You know, I'll get a work order back saying, you know, 2 people changed light bulbs. You know, it's like, why did it take 2 people to change light bulbs? And if they have a good answer, like, we're in the jail and I need a runner to go and get stuff, because if I leave the jail area, I have to put everything away, go get it, and then come back and open it up. But if they're in a place like this, it's like, why did it take 2 people? You know, and as we get more and more buildings, you know, they're not gonna be able to work together. So we're getting it done. We're not doing overtime. So we're tightening the screws is what we're doing. And some of these people are not happy that we're questioning, why is it taking 2 of you to do it? You know, why does it take you 2 people to go fix a dryer out at Parkview? I have my dryer fixed and Allbrand sends 1 guy. 1 guy fixes my dishwasher. You know, I have 1 electrician come and do this. You know, 1 guy from Gartman comes and fixes my, you know, my furnace. So why are we having 2? So we're questioning it, and we're making sure that they're working a little bit more efficiently than what they may have in the past. But there will come a time where we're going to have to ask you for more staffing. But if you take a look at what the county budget is, you know, probably over half of what we spend is for labor. And the more we spend on labor is the less that we can spend on providing our services. So we have to be judicious on what we're doing, and there's some departments, you know, now that they're asking for some things, we just say, no, we can't do it. You know, not unless you guys have money and can afford to do it. You know, like somebody wants blinds in the window. It's not in the budget. So that's how we're doing it now. We are looking at what our work is, and we're prioritizing it, and we're just doing what we have to do to get it done, and making sure that the guys aren't making wasted trips. You know, for instance, you know, oh, the windshield wipers on my van aren't working, you know, so I'm gonna go to Napa and spend time to buy the parts and come here and put them on. And it's like, Napa delivers. You need windshield wipers? We'll call them up and you tell them this is what we need the windshield wipers for, and they're delivered here the next day. You know, same thing with like batteries plus, what have you, you know. And we're gonna get to the point where, hey, you know, maybe in April, we're just gonna replace windshield wipers, period. And not wait for them to go bad.
That seems, well, I mean, whatever.
Good for you.
Yeah, you know, so it's, you know, it's trying to instill into these people the ideas that the private sector have. And, you know, a lot of people just think when you're a county worker, you can sit around and not do stuff. And, that's okay. Well, it's not okay. You know, if all branch or Gartman only needs one person, why do we need two?
All right, moving on to, anybody else have anything for Mike on the budget? Moving on to suggestions for items for the next meeting agenda.
If this is passed on the naming of the facilities, one thing that was brought up was the sewer, or, well, I don't know if you want that on there.
Yeah, I think we should.
Has to be passed to the county board, but I mean, we're the ones that would have to
Yep.
bring that in then.
Yeah. I don't know, 6, 7. I would say maybe a presentation from McKinstry instead of discussion of building assessment study. Mike, if you think that's possible.
I will check with them and see, you know, make sure that they're ready.
9, I guess 10 as well. I guess one more thing, I guess I'm hearing you say it quite a bit. I guess like to know, you know, maybe for next month, talking about open positions in facilities department. How many openings are there? What those positions are?
Okay.
Anybody else have anything? No, Mike. All right. Moving on to next meeting date and time. The fourth Wednesday is August 23rd, 23, 9 o'clock. Same place.
Okay.
With that, we make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, we are adjourned.
Yeah.